Okay, hi everybody, this is David Fohrman calling. This is not David Fohrman calling, sorry, that's our blooper reel. I had to give you something. Hi everybody, this is David Fohrman, and I'm here at the request of Esther. Esther, how do you pronounce your last name?
Leventer.
I'm here at the request of Esther Leventer, and she asked me to talk a little bit about leadership, so here's my quickie take on leadership. When most people think of an effective leader for the Jewish people, the most obvious person who comes to mind is Moshe. But the question I have for you is, what about Moshe makes him a really effective leader? And when would you say Moshe's starring role as leader probably comes through? So I think the answer to that might come if you ask ourselves, what was it that qualified him to be a leader, right? Why Moshe of all people? And do we get any evidence from the text as to what qualified him specifically to be a leader? So I think the answer comes from what is it that we know about Moshe before he's actually selected leader? He's selected a leader at the burning bush when God comes and says it's going to be you. What do we know about him? What episodes does the Torah bother telling us about him before that? So the episodes are kind of what happens to him and what he does. What happens to him is now he's put in this little box and saved by a woman who put herself at personal risk to save him, the daughter of Paro. That's what happens to him. But then what happens is after that we know, I would say, 3 episodes we hear about, or really 4 episodes that we hear about Moshe. And in each of those episodes, we kind of see him emulating what his mother did. Episode number 1, he wants to know what's going on with the people, with his brothers. So he leaves the palace gate. So here he is. He's an Egyptian prince, and it'd be pretty convenient for him to stay as an Egyptian prince, but he wants to see what's happening with his brothers and identifies with them, even though they're from the other side of the tracks. And he would put himself at risk when identifying with the Jews if he grows up as an Egyptian prince. That's episode number 1. Episode number 2 is what happens when he sees his brothers. He sees that there's an Egyptian hitting a Jew, and he comes to the defense of the defenseless and puts himself again at personal risk of the person who's going to be destroyed. And then what happens is he sees 2 Jews fighting amongst each other, and again comes to the aid of the victim. And then the next thing you hear about him is the same kind of thing happens, but he's in Midian, and he sees these women, these strangers, and they're being oppressed by these shepherds, and he comes to their defense. So if you say, what's the common denominator here, and you factor out all the things that are different from all these stories, the answer is it doesn't make a difference who it is, who's doing the oppression, it doesn't make a difference who's being oppressed, but the bottom line is if he sees someone being unfairly taken advantage of, he's willing to put himself at personal risk to help them, no matter how undesirable that person seems to be or how powerful the force that's opposing them seems to be. Something that perhaps he learned from his mother, a woman who put herself in a position to help somebody who was the most undesirable of the world, the Jews who were being slaughtered at the behest of her own father. She puts herself out for him, and he begins to sort of emulate her, hence the name that he gets, Moshe in Amayim Mishitiyu, comes from her act, that she drew him from the water, and he keeps on doing this, drawing other people out of the water, and drawing other people out of the water, until he in fact draws the people of Israel out of the water, out of the Red Sea. At the end, though, what's his greatest moment of leadership? His greatest moment of leadership is probably, I would say counterintuitively, when the one that he has to stand up to, the aggressor, is none other than God himself. And the people who become the least popular people on the planet are the Jews in the aftermath of the golden calf. And it's at that moment that Moshe does it one more time. His greatest moment of leadership is probably the moment when God says to him, look, I have a plan, we'll get rid of them, we'll start all over with you. And Moshe's response is not only that I'm not going for the plan, but that if you want to destroy them, you're going to have to destroy me too, because you have to kill me and wipe me out of the book. If it's important for you to have me, you can't have me if you don't have them. And what he's really saying is, I'm putting myself at personal risk. If you're going to destroy them, then I too will be destroyed, and that's really the choice that you have to make. You have to wonder, what was God thinking at that moment? And I think God was laughing at that moment, even though he's opposing God. But who was it who chose him for this job? God was the one to choose him. On what basis? What in his resume rung true for God that says, this is the one I need? And God, being God, said, I need someone who can do this. I need someone who can oppose even me and to put himself with the people And that's the most important thing I have, someone who says that my lot is with them, is willing to risk himself, come what may, no matter who the aggressor is, even if the aggressor has to be me. And at the end of the day, God says, that's why I chose you. Why do you think I chose you? I was waiting for you to do something like that. And in terms of what it means for leadership with us, I think a lot of times when we think about what it means to be a leader, even the English word leader, means to be ahead of, right? Where the people are over here, and I'm over here, I'm out in front. But what this portrait of leadership suggests is that it's not really about being up front, it's about being with. It's about that can you insinuate yourself into the people and become part of them, and paradoxically your ability to be able to say, I am one of them, and I will share their lot, and I will care about them, and will have whatever fate they will have, is actually the greatest leadership moment that sets you apart from them in a way as a leader. But paradoxically, you're set apart by virtue of your willingness to be a part of. And to really be a leader somehow is to be a part of the people and somehow use that as a way to lead them and to draw them to draw them to better and greater things. So thanks a lot, Esther, and I hope I get a chance to see you and the people you teach much more often.